I'm joined by Mussab Ali, who's running for Congress up in New Jersey. I agree with Noah Block, by the way. The tie is awesome. Yeah, the style is very good. Mussab, thank you for joining me on Corncast. It's really really nice to be able to talk to anybody running for office, especially live in front of my audience. And I actually have a lot that I really want to get to with you today. But before I ask you anything, I actually want to do with you what I've done for every single candidate that I've talked to for the last few months. I've been doing this since November. Wow, time is really flying. And that is, I actually want to give you the floor. I want to give you 5 minutes, no interruptions. And what I really want to hear is just tell me who you are, why you're doing this at this exact time, and what you think that your candidacy represents for the people in Jersey City, and why you think that your candidacy is necessary.
Yeah. So first of all, thanks for having me on the show. Look, I think that right now we're at a moment in this country that is so abnormal that we need everyday people to step up. I mean, we are in a place in our country where, in Jersey City, literally yesterday, there was a report of ICE just coming up and picking up one of our neighbors. No reports of any crimes that the person's committed. I mean, ICE is just literally coming into our neighborhoods and making us all feel less safe. And at the same time, you have a president that's out here talking about, oh, this is about safety and this is about, the rule of law. But, these ICE officers aren't following any rule of law. I mean, they're sort of a lawless agency that, is executing the will of this president. At the same time, you have lawmakers on both parties that are being funded by big pharma, big oil, these military industrial complex vendors. And it's like, you wonder why Democrats are polling lower than Republicans. And it's because the reality is, people can't distinguish the difference, right? They get in office and they promise all these things and they don't deliver. And so I think, in particular in this moment, you have an opportunity because I think there's a lot of people who are fed up with the establishment, who are looking for something different. And I think that there's an opportunity to step up and say, look, like this is a moment where a new group of people can come and lead. And I'll give you some background about myself. I was raised in Jersey City, the son of two union workers. My mom is a teacher. My dad is a postal worker. I sort of grew up with an opportunity to serve when I was 20 years old, was elected up to the school board, did some really cool things there. And a lot of those things taught me something that was very important, which is that, when it comes to government and even at the local level, it's not that we don't have the resources, it's that we don't have the courage. So we had water fountains that had been, contaminated with lead since I was in first grade. And when I got into office, we fixed them. And was it because we didn't have the money? No, it's because we didn't have the courage. We increased minimum wage for everyday employees up to $17 an hour, and for teachers from 54,000 up to $61,000. Did we not have the money previously? No, we didn't have the courage. We gave kids, free eye glasses and free eye exams. And again, was it a question of money? No, it was a question of courage. And so I think right now in this moment, we need more people who have that courage, that are willing to step up and say, hey, I'm going to fight on behalf of the American people, not on behalf of corporations, not on behalf of these special interest groups, but just fighting for people. Because the biggest lie that we have been sold is the idea that in the wealthiest country in human civilization, we don't have the money. America has the wealth. We don't have the courage.
Absolutely. I think that it resonates with me very much, and I think anybody who's watching this, whether they're watching now or when they watch later, that the moment right now definitely requires a class of politician that at least is just willing to say the truth. And the truth is that we have chosen to ignore all our problems, kind of like ignoring like a drunk uncle at a holiday and just pretending like he's not there and he's not fucking things up. And same thing with us. Like there's 100 things I can think of at the national level that we absolutely could fix. I believe it was Emma Vigeland who said just the other day when she was on CNBC or CNN that in 1.5 weeks of the current war in Iran, we could have just paid for free college. The idea that these things are gargantuan expenses that nobody can even, how many zeros are there to pay for things. It's literally all bullshit, right? It's all just a problem of allocation. But here's my question to you though. You bring up these very tangible wins where you're fixing lead pipes, leading to water fountains that children drink out of. This is getting people raises. These are very very tangible wins. But they echo a thing I have noticed across the board for anybody who I've talked to who's running for Congress or Senate or governor's race, which is like I haven't really talked to anybody who's a true outsider outside. What they're doing is they're coming up from somewhere where they've earned their stripes. They've gotten
Mhm.
wins for their community. And right now, against the administration, which is so deeply unpopular, to me anyway, it looks like that the most effective resistance is coming from the local level. It's coming from mayors. It's coming from council members. It's coming from school board members, right, who are helping arrange walk-ins for children, right, to literally walk kids to school safely, things like this. So my question is, why go to Congress at all? Like, I think most Americans would hear your story, Mussab, and they would say, yeah, I mean, dude, stay in Jersey City then. I mean, like,
Yeah.
why do you wanna go and rub shoulders with Hakeem Jeffries? Like,
I mean, look, I'll be honest with you. If the option was to stay in Jersey City, honestly, I would. But the reality is, like, we need people who are fighting at that level, and you think about who the replacement is, right? So right now, I have a member of Congress who he's been asked very directly, would he support Hakeem Jeffries? And he's like, of course I would, right? Like, he's doing a fantastic job. And I wouldn't. I don't think he's doing a fantastic job, right?
yeah,
And so, like, the question becomes, like, do I cede the power of the seat to an establishment moderate Democrat? I mean, my member of Congress, and by the way, this is a extremely blue district that we're in,
yeah,
right? My member of Congress has refused to even join the Congressional Progressive Caucus
yeah.
won't join it, right? And it's because, like, his father was a moderate, he's sort of carrying on that legacy, and so it's tough for me to watch, right? It's tough for me to stomach, like, watching our political power go to somebody who
Yeah.
I frankly don't think deserves to be there at all.
So fair. I have a question for you then about like the instincts of the current Democratic Party, which is the party that you are running under and that like you would join at the national level, right? Like, do you think that do you think that that incumbent of yours, like, he has access to polling. He knows the Democrats are less popular than AI. You know what I mean? Like these are not hidden insights that live in the minds of like most brilliant politicos. You don't have to be David Axelrod to know that aligning yourself with Hakeem Jeffries is poison to wanting to be liked to anything. Um, what do you think it is that keeps them so feckless and so unwilling to just like join the party?
Yeah. So, one of the few things that actually polls lower than the Democratic Party is AIPAC, right? Like, among the things that you could be associated with, AIPAC is, like, literally the most toxic organization. And my member of Congress refuses to distance himself. He is still backed by AIPAC. He still proudly wears their endorsement, right? So I don't think it's a matter of like, do they have common sense? I mean, I think they do. I mean, I like to give them a little bit of credit. But I think that what they are betting on, frankly, is they're betting on voters not voting. And
Mm,
this is why Democrats lose. This is why we lost the party and the popular vote to Donald Trump, right? At least back in, 2016, we were like, oh, but like Hillary won the popular vote, like,
yeah,
Trump won. We lost the popular vote. And I don't think Democrats have really come to terms with what that means.
right.
It means that like the majority of Americans, not just the electoral college, the majority of Americans were like, hey, this guy sucks, but you guys suck worse, right?
Yeah,
And so like, what's sad in my election is like, I mean, I'm watching the way my incumbent is campaigning. And his whole thing is to pretend there is no election, right? His preference is nobody votes. And I think like that's the exact problem I have with the
oh my
Democratic
god.
Party, right? Is like
Yeah,
you would much rather have a contest where it's like, okay, I don't want anyone to know there's an election, as opposed to being like, I am willing to stand on my record and talk about who I am, right? For
yeah.
them, it's just about the donor class, right? Like who are their donors? Who are the people who are actually willing to like, write their checks? To me, it's not about the donors, man. It's about the voters. It's about the people in this district who can actually step up and fight on behalf of everyday people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just reminded of, 2 things all at once, and I think that they'll bring great humor to you at the same time. The first is, one of the most load-bearing tweets in all of American politics, in my opinion, which is the tweet of, "Just got back from the centrist rally. It was really beautiful. Thousands of people standing in a circle, holding hands, chanting at the wind. Nothing better is possible." Really cracks me up so much to think about that. I should honestly get that made to a tapestry and hang it on my wall. And the other one, is, just, I don't remember, exactly who it is that's depicted saying this, but it's somebody very funny, and they say, "Bro, just trust the opposition party," and then it's like a guy throwing his hands, toward the camera. He's like, "Look at the state of my opposition party." I mean, does it feel, I ask seriously, does it feel, like, hopeless at all to you at points when you're like, "This is the party I'm joining?" Like, "Oh god, the roots are so rotted, like, this tree is just" like, cut it down effectively, you know?
Yeah, I mean, look, it does feel hopeless sometimes, but, the things that give me hope is that within the party, you do have rising stars, right?
Mhm,
Who are sort of reshaping the direction of the party, and I think what's nice to see is that the energy is concentrated with these new stars, right?
yeah,
So people like, an AOC, people like a Zoran Mamdani, people like a James Tallarico, right? I mean, like, even that election, like, you're seeing the way that the messaging is very much going against
yeah,
the billionaires and the 1% and is very much concentrated on, like, people, right? And I think that gives me some hope that I think that we're starting to, like, rip away from, like, what has been traditionally perceived as the base of the Democratic Party. But we have a long way to go, man. We have a long
yeah,
way to go. But, look, you'll see some, like, other positive, like in New Jersey, right?
mhm,
Cory Booker, notoriously one of the top recipients of APAC donation,
yeah,
notoriously.
yes,
I mean, he just announced, "Hey, I'm not gonna take any more APAC money," right?
yeah,
For
but
him to do that, yeah,
is he doing the bullshit that Biss did though, where he's like, "Oh, it's like, he's welcoming his friend into a party, and he's like, "No, this isn't John who punched your friend. No, 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 this is James." And it's just John with a mustache, and this is obviously a metaphor for J Street. Like, I
yeah.
mean, is he just doing that though? Like,
So the thing is, look, I'm not sure, right? Like,
yeah,
and because I don't really follow all his disclosures, and like we'll see in a
yeah,
couple of weeks, like what his numbers come out for. But I still do think it's significant
sure, yeah,
that
being
he
able
is
to name,
starting
yeah,
to do
yeah,
that, right? And also, like, I mean, even his language around Netanyahu, right?
yeah,
Like, he got asked again on Pod Save America, right? They asked him, they're like, "Do you think Netanyahu is a war criminal?"
yeah,
Right? And he all but said it,
mhm,
right? So he's still not there. Like, he's
yeah,
still like, we still got to push him more. But he was like, "Oh, I think Netanyahu should be jailed
yeah,
for his crimes."
yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like, what crimes, Corey?
Yeah, yeah, it's like states' rights to do what, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
um, well, okay, so that being said, I do think it's worth noting, right? Like, one of the sharpest critiques of you that I was able to find in my research, is coming from, like, it's coming from Jewish insiders, coming from, like, letter writers in Hoboken, right? And they're saying that you obsess over Israel while Menendez, like, delivers for your district. Like, I just wanna give you the floor to answer that directly and make the case to people listening, like, why it was that mentioning Gaza and the Iran war, like, were in or, like, are so prominently, featured in your messaging. And I also just want to know, like, what you would say to a voter in this district who agrees with you on, like, literally every other point of your platform, but worries that a freshman member of Congress would be, like, burning political capital on foreign policy fights, but might come back empty-handed when it comes to local stuff.
Yeah. I mean, what I would say, I don't think we can divorce what is happening at the international level from what it means to be part of the federal administration, right? I
Mhm.
mean, like, literally, America exists in an ecosystem with all other countries in the world. And the more that we sort of deride our credibility internationally, the worse it actually hurts us economically, right?
Yeah.
Because countries are like, okay, we don't trust this country. We're less willing to trade. We're less willing to give resources. We're less willing to collaborate, right? So all of it sort of trickles down.
Yeah.
But directly right now, I mean, like the Iran war, we all know the only reason the Iran war happened. I mean, there is nobody who is like a national security expert who can tell you that this Iran war happened because America wanted it to.
Right.
I mean, it's explicitly been made clear to us that we are at war with Iran because of the state of Israel.
Yeah.
And so, like,
Yeah.
if I'm looking at that, I'm saying to myself, like, okay, Donald Trump just announced that in December, all people between the ages of 18 and 25 are going to be automatically enrolled into a draft,
Yeah.
right? And then at the other side, he's also saying that he wants the defense budget, the war budget, to go up to $1.5 trillion in
Yeah.
2027.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so like let's add these pieces up. For $500 billion, you could solve hunger, you could solve homelessness, you could take care of people going to college, you could make sure that people have cheaper groceries, you could make sure that people have affordable childcare, you could make sure that people have cheaper rent, right? All these things could be accomplished. That additional 500 billion is going towards the Department of War, and it's clear to me and it's clear to anyone else who's watching our national security apparatus that like a lot of these decisions are being driven by a foreign entity,
Yeah.
namely the state of Israel. I don't want my government, the American government, to be deciding where to invest these dollars
Yeah.
because of the state of Israel. I
Yeah,
want
of
them to
course.
decide based on Americans, right? And so for me, like, these criticisms that I get, I think are very clear, are coming from people who are, like, big supporters of the state of Israel, are
Yeah.
lobbyists for the sort of state of Israel, are not people who represent American values. Because I'll tell you, I mean, I've even had conversations with some people who have donated to Menendez, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes, like, you'll call somebody like a staff member flag, like, "Oh, this is actually a Menendez donor." And, when I talk to them, like, I'm like, "Oh, like, I know you already donated to the member, like, it's okay, like,
Mhm.
here's a little bit about me, but, like, I'm not really expecting to convince them." But when we talk about specifically war,
Yeah.
right? I think war has become a top 3 issue for a lot of people.
Yeah, of
Like,
course.
it used to be like, okay, people be like, "Oh, like, people don't care about Gaza, they don't care about Israel." Sure, I think Gaza has actually taken a back seat, unfortunately, the
Yeah.
ongoing genocide there. But the war in Iran has become, like, a heavy issue for a lot of voters.
Yeah.
And when I explain to them, like, "Hey, 1, why are we at war? It's because of Israel," right? Suddenly they're like, "Oh, yeah, I can connect those dots, and, like, I don't want to support somebody who's supported by Israel."
Yeah.
And then 2, like, the larger conversation around, like, the war apparatus, right? Like, because to me, like, we're talking about Israel because it's driving us into war, and at the same time, my member of Congress has taken money from all the people who profiteer off of war, right?
Yeah.
So you think about Lockheed Martin, you think about Northrop, you think about, Boeing, right?
Right.
You think about General Dynamics. The people who are making the missiles, dropping the bombs, my Congress member takes money from all of them.
Yeah. Which is obviously extremely, extremely insane. I agree with you that now the genocide in Palestine has unfortunately taken a backseat, but it has kind of like been renewed in the public interest purely because of the war in Iran that we are litigating for seemingly no reason. I mean whatsoever. The lack of any geopolitical focus that's even remotely legible in any stripe or conversation to me it has been one of the most stunning things to happen in my life. I mean, to watch the United States completely acquiesce the last bit of like hegemony we had in the world for nothing is just like actually insane to me. Um, but I am curious then, just you know, in your gut reaction, what do you think happens with the war? What do you from now to the end of the year? Well, actually, let's say from now to election day. Like, one, what do you think happens actually in the war? And then two, what do you think the actual impact of this will be in the polls? Because I mean, I think that the easiest thing to reach for, right, is to be like, oh, I mean, Republicans are going to get fucking wiped. But I mean, what do you think is happening?
I mean, I think I don't know how much longer this war continues, right? So, like, until my election day, I think it probably will. So June 2nd,
Yeah,
I think we're probably gonna have another month of this. I think this 2-week ceasefire is already extremely tenuous, and
yeah,
Israel has already broken it by, like, bombing Lebanon, right? Like,
right,
it's clear to me Netanyahu cannot advance his interests without being at war, right? I mean, like, candidly, if he is not at war, he will be jailed. And
yeah,
so it is in his best interest to continue warfare, right?
mm,
And so he doesn't really care what the US wants, what the US doesn't want. But I think if you're the Republican Party and you are watching your poll numbers crater, right? I mean, like, the one thing about Donald Trump is he needs to be loved,
right,
right? Like, this is the part of
very
the
true.
ego of who he is, that, like, he needs to be loved. He needs to feel like the American people love him. And I think the further he sees his poll numbers going down, the more he's like, man, I have to pivot. I have to pivot.
Yeah,
And so right now they're trying to sell this 10 points as like a win, right? It's like, "Oh,
yeah,
like, hey, we're gonna give them another $70 billion,
yeah,
and we won." And people are like, "To do what?" "Oh, to reopen the strait." "Oh, but, like, the strait was open prior to the war, and we weren't
right,
paying $70 billion. So how did we win?" Right? Like, people are
yeah,
like, "We don't know what's happening here." And so I think that at some point, the Republican apparatus will have to just turn on the spin machine and try to make this argument that, like, you know what, there is some sort of victory that's happened here,
yeah,
and I think you're also seeing, though, there's this, like, rise even in the Republican Party that wants to distance itself from the state of Israel,
yeah.
right?
Oh, for
And I
sure.
and I also do wanna make very clear, right, like, there's a huge difference between supporting the state of Israel and supporting the safety and health of Jewish Americans, right?
Of course,
Like,
yeah,
people sometimes will say to me, like, "Oh, like, you know, you're anti-Semitic." And I would say this to you because I've said this to rabbis in my district. I think the number one driver of anti-Semitism is the
yes,
actions
it's
of
yes.
Netanyahu.
I agree.
What he has done is he is conflated. He has said, "Look, I have to do this because I'm Jewish. The only reason that, like, I won't have safety is because I'm Jewish." And so, the person who is not well educated about this topic, who doesn't have Jewish friends, who doesn't talk to Jewish neighbors, thinks to themselves like, "Oh my god, all Jewish people must agree with this man because he's speaking with the conviction on behalf of the only Jewish state in the country." I mean, in the
Yeah.
world, right? And so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that that is so dangerous. And so I'm hoping for everyone's safety that this war ends.
Yeah. I mean, I will say to the point about how it is influencing the Democratic Party, this current fight for the it's kind of like soul of America and answer this question of like, are we for America or are we for Israel? I mean, because like we at this point we can't have both. Um, I was literally just talking in my last in my like paid live about how I think that Democrats don't understand, like, they are in this Chinese finger trap right now with like the question of supporting the state of Israel in any way, shape, or form. And that trap is that like there are very, very powerful insurgent voices from the right who are now to most Americans to the left of the Democrats on the question of do you keep taking money from Israel? Do you keep running out of your way to like run interference for Israel? And those are people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes. Now, of course, their criticism of Israel comes from a hidden belief in a white ethno state. That's what they want it for. Like they don't actually want to see the Palestinian people liberated. They don't actually want to see a Lebanon that has total sovereignty and isn't dominated by a minoritarian party of Zionists inside of that country. They want to see a white ethno state here in America. They want that money kept here so that we can enact racial segregation here. But like to most people who don't engage with their content outside of a very small set of clips that make it onto YouTube Shorts and TikTok, where I'm sorry, like Nick Fuentes sounds more like Hassan sometimes than he does sound like Hakeem Jeffries. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy, and I fear very deeply, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. That like it will be really easy for Republicans in 2028 to just totally spin the block on Democrats and be like, you all kept wanting to take money from Israel. Okay, yeah, Trump got us into that fucked up war, but ultimately, like, we are the party that wants to put America first. I guess what I'm saying is, I'm curious your thoughts on how insurgent and how much of a threat like the America First movement is now, because MAGA clearly is like such a grift that even Trump's own supporters like are like, what is this?
Yeah.
What are we doing? But like, you know,
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the argument that Democrats need to be making is really about restoring America's place as like a trusted broker around the world. Because I think right now what you're seeing is like, dude, nobody trusts us. Like
yeah,
literally, nobody trusts us.
yeah,
Our allies literally have abandoned us. China continues to rise in its sort of global dominance. And I think that if we do not become a party that is forward looking on like the American project as a place to actually, support the world in making the world a better place, as opposed to advancing, American interests around the world, I think
yeah,
that's where we have to have that deviation from the Republican Party, right? So the Republican Party with the America First mission has sort of put a very clear foreign policy goal ahead, right? Which is what?
yeah,
I'm going to invest here at home, no investments anywhere abroad, all of our money should be focused on the American project, right? That's it. It's very clear. It's very simple. It's easy to understand. The, the counterpoint right now from Democrats, at least Democratic leadership, has been around the support of Israel, which I think has been destructive to the way
yeah,
that people have seen it. But if the counterpoint was, hey, we're going to support countries around the world in an effort to make the world a better place that ultimately helps support us and keeps the world at peace, right? So like we were talking about,
yeah,
the USAID money that goes in and like helps to make sure that people have clean drinking water, helps to make sure that people
right,
have, reproductive rights, making sure that people get vaccines. I mean, like, bro, if we are not helping people get vaccines in Africa and parts of Africa, well, guess what happens because of international travel? Uh, we've seen it with the pandemic. That's going to come here to America, right? So, like, the argument we need to make in response to the foreign policy agenda of the right needs to be a foreign policy that's rooted in dignity and empathy that is ultimately going to help us in the long run. The
yeah.
problem is, again, right, because right now people just see Democrats as well. These guys just want to write a blank check to the state of Israel. I'm like, why would you trust that?
Yeah. Well, here's my question to bring it back to your district. It's like I want to reference a chat I had with somebody who unfortunately did not win her primary, which was I was able to talk to Kat Abu before she had her primary in March. And one of the things she said in her interview I thought was very interesting was, listen, if I win, which obviously she did not, She's like, if I win, then that first 2 years, like, we're probably not going to be able to get anything like super big across the line. It's probably going to be a lot of like stopping and impeaching Trump, and just like trying to get some level of sanity, like to happen. Um, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on this as a person who, if you win your primary, almost certainly you'll win in the general. And it's like, do you agree with that framing that like the next 2 years are about damage control, or do you think that there is space for like real progressive wins or even like socialistic wins to get across the finish line?
Yeah, I think that there is room, right? Because I think what you're seeing is like you're seeing a bunch of Republicans resign in
Yeah,
Washington. And I think that once this MAGA sort of strength of the party like dissipates, people are jockeying to figure out who's next.
yeah,
And I don't see anyone in the Republican Party have that same side of charisma that's going to like unite the entire party. So they're going to be
yeah,
factions, right? And so when there's factions, that's a great opportunity because factions mean you can break votes,
yeah,
right? You can get people to come alongside with you and say, hey, like, let's put something together that the majority of people agree with.
yeah.
One of the things I'm really proud of is I'm the signer of something called the 80% bill, right? Which is the idea that like these are things that 80% of all Americans agree on. And so we should make sure that we advance them, right?
Hmm.
And I think that the more that you can get Republicans to sort of understand, like, hey, you need to agree with things that the majority of Americans agree with. Otherwise, you are not going to win your elections. I think you're going to start to see some movement. But look, for the next 2 years, while you have President Trump still in office, it's going to be hard to do much of anything, right? But I do think that sort of jockeying of who's next means there's opportunity where people are like, okay, like maybe we can move some things along. Um, but look, I think more broadly, I'm really just more worried about how the Democrats even position themselves for 2028, because as much as we keep
You're
talking
not
about the
excited to vote for Kamala?
come on, man. I look,
No,
I
she's going. Dude, I mean, listen, every poll that I see
I no,
has her like
she's gonna
clustering.
run. I look,
Yeah,
and I think it's a democratic look, we're a free country, and I believe everyone has the right to run, okay?
yeah,
So I'm not one of those people that says Kamala can't run. No,
right, yeah,
I
of
think she
course,
should run, but I think we should have as fair of a primary process as possible, right?
yeah,
Where, like, people are actually held to account on their views,
mhm.
people are held to account about what they believe in. I mean, look, I would love to see, even I mean, do you think about it from your perspective, right? Wouldn't it be great to have, like, in the early goings, right?
Yeah,
10, 12 people who are running, right? People who are coming on your platform talking about their views. You can grill them about questions, right?
yeah,
And we can have clips about what do they actually believe in, right?
yeah,
Because ultimately, like I think the Democratic Party needs to unite on some fundamental things that represent the Democratic base, right? Medicare for all. 90% of Democrats support universal health care, right?
yeah,
Okay, Medicare for all is going to be something that we want to put forward as our party platform, right? I mean, right now, the whole issue that's happening with ICE, like we should not have ICE that exists as an agency. We should have immigration, right? But it should not operate under the form of ICE, right? So
right,
having that as part of our policy,
sure,
right?
yeah,
Stopping these endless wars, investing in some sort of UBI, right? Like some sort of universal basic income. Because especially around AI, like we have not had a party policy
yeah,
around AI.
I
And
know,
I
yeah,
think it's important that we have that conversation because it is not going away. Like, this is something that is going to continue to proliferate at a rate where, like, if you are not taking a position as a government, you are doing a disservice to the American people. So these are all things that I think need to have happened, like, as Democrats. The thing I worry about is, like, our party gets in our own way so many times, and we are so willing to sell it to lobbyists, and we're
yeah,
so willing to sell it to corporations that, like, you know, where one that I think is the bigger challenge than even, like, the
yeah.
damage control.
Well, here's something I want to bring up to you, which is that do you think it's at all naive? Don't take this as anything other than genuine curiosity, because I'm not trying to load any question with anything like that. But it's like, do you worry it might be naive to even hope for things like the 80% bill to see passage when the DNC just the other day refused to condemn any stance that was like, oh, we say that we won't take any money from APAC, for example. It's like if ever there was I think the only thing more bipartisan at this point in the country than like saying like fuck you to APAC is like arresting people who are associated with the Epstein files. Like, and for the DNC to go out of its way to be like, we will not endorse a resolution that condemns taking money from APAC. Like, to me, what that would say if I was running would be like, okay, well then I can't I can't trust this organization to do anything, let alone hold an honest and open primary.
I
Like,
mean I mean, let's be honest on these Epstein files, right? Democrats had the Epstein files for 4 years,
yeah,
right? Like, we held on to them and didn't release them. So, look, I do think there's a huge, huge cultural shift that has to happen within our party. But what I think gives me hope is I think that this next generation of voters has their eyes wide open about what's
Mhm.
happening, right? Like, they are very much like, "Dude, I'm sick of this. I'm moving on. I'm ready for something new. I'm ready for
Yeah,
change." And I think that's where I feel promise, right? Is like, there are people that are fed up with the establishment, fed up with the status quo, and can shift the party monumentally. I mean, look, the same thing happened on the right? I mean, the
yeah,
Tea Party movement that happened, it took Republicans, unfortunately, way off the deep end, but sort of started because people were anti-establishment, right? They're like, "Oh, I hate the establishment. I want something different." And they ended up in this like, hey, only white people who are,
yeah,
males and landowners should be like what we think of as Native Americans. Um, nice. And so for us, I think the opposite of that actually is to say, okay, let's fight for working class people.
yeah,
Let us fight to make sure that, people have an opportunity to build some real access in this country to opportunity. Right. I mean, I think about these statistics all the time. Like, the next generation is the first generation that's projected to do worse off than their parents.
yeah,
Like, the American dream is dead. I mean, like, that should
yeah,
literally be the story, right? And, like, the only way to fix that is governmental intervention. And the reason I think a lot of the older people don't care, and like, I hate to say this, but, like, if you have a 401k, you have a pension plan,
yeah,
you're doing great.
yeah,
I mean, like, let's just be honest, like, Dow's over 50,000, right? Like, yeah, for you, as someone who is, invested in the system, things are looking up. You're like, "Hey, you know what? It's not gonna be so bad for me." But if you are someone who's graduating from college and you're a young man who's graduating from college with $100,000 in debt, and the unemployment rate for a young man is for graduating from college is the same as a young man who's graduating from high school, bro, things do not look rosy.
yeah, no, I was gonna say, I mean, I think that one of the absolute, like, most insane self-owns that the Democratic Party, like, chose to engage in the last 10 years was just kind of, like, shoving aside young men in this very weird way. Not really, not in, like, the I'm not saying this in the red pill way, but it's like, the fact that it's kind of just treated as this, almost like this given where it's like, "Oh, well, like, the smart young guys who go to college will all just vote for us, and then, like, we'll just leave all the dumb young guys who, like, only go to high school or whatever, like, oh, yeah, sure, Republicans can, like, have those." I'm just thinking very much of, like, Chuck Schumer saying that now very infamous line of, "For every, voter that we lose in, the Rust Belt, we'll pick up 2 in suburban Philadelphia." And it's like, wow, talk about not having a vision. Holy shit. Actually, knowing, though, that so many people I think do agree with the positions that we're talking about here. I don't wanna be the meme of, like, 2 of the most delusional women just going back and forth saying yes exactly to each other across the table. Um, I am curious though, like, why do you think so many people, even like some progressives, have like come out to like endorse Menendez? Like, because that was something I was noting though. There's like a lot of people who I would expect to like see in your corner explicitly for this reason, like just aren't. And I just want to know like what you think that says about them, about him, or about the case that you're making.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think a big part of what it means is like, what are their red lines, right? So I think for a lot of them, like taking money from APAC, taking money from these warmongers is not a red line. Like, that's
Yeah,
okay. But I also do think like there is a thing about the establishment protecting their own. I mean, like, this is the nature of the beast, right? Like, I fully expect a lot of people who have served with him or his father, who has been in Democratic politics for 50 years, to say, hey, you know what? We're used to the Menendez name. That is what it is. uh, you know, and like, and the thing that bothers me too, right, is like, I don't think, right, and I think a lot of people say this, like, I personally do not think the son should be held accountable to the sins of the father, right? Like,
mm,
sure, but I think what actually has happened here is people feel bad and say, "Oh, like, the father messed up real bad. Like, let's make sure we can help the son out." And like, you know what? Menendez to me had such an amazing trajectory to like launch his own brand, right?
yeah,
He could have came into Congress. Bro, my man came into Congress not having a single real opponent, right? Like,
yeah,
came into Congress, everybody endorsed him. The governors endorsed him, the senators endorsed him, the mayors endorsed him before he even signed his petition. He was already
yeah,
the congressman, right?
yeah,
So you had a coordination ceremony where you were already granted a seat. You could have came into Congress and said, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to fight for a new generation of voters.
yeah. I know.
I'm going to fight.
No.
I'm going to fight to say, hey, we need Medicare for all. We need to do these things." And knowing full well, hey, my father's a US senator, right? My daddy's going to take care of me. I have all the protection in the world. Like, let me be a force for good in this
Yeah,
country. But instead, the guy decides, hey, you know what? AIPAC backed my dad, I want AIPAC to be my number one backer. My father was a moderate, I'm gonna be a moderate. My
Mhm.
father was a war hawk, I'm gonna be a war hawk. And to
Yeah.
me, it's like the question I actually have for Menendez is like, what is one vote you've taken your father wouldn't have taken?
Yeah.
Because literally, I mean, like everything he's done, I mean, to me, it's like they're inseparable. The Menendez father and the Menendez son, right?
Mm.
And again, it's like, you take all this money from corporate PACs, you take these money from APAC, you don't actually fight for the people in the district. In his last quarter, right, for 3
Yeah.
months as an incumbent congressman, he had a total of 8 donations inside the district. 8,
Fuck.
you know? Like,
Yeah.
every other member of Congress is, like, on the small dollar thing, right? Is like,
Yeah.
"Oh, shoot, like, dude, I gotta spend some money to get grassroots
He's like,
donations."
I don't mess with brokies. I'm s
Yeah.
like,
He's like, "Bro, $1,000 are up, minimum." You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, it's crazy to me, like
Dude, that's so crazy. He's taking the Doja Cat approach of, "I would never let you in my VIP." That's so nuts. Jesus.
yeah. And I think but I think that voters are seeing that, right? Like, I'll be honest,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
again, I actually talked to one person who had donated to Menendez, right?
Yeah,
One of these 8 people, right? So, you gotta find the people, right? You gotta research whatever. You gotta one of the 8 people who would give it to him. And the one lady said to me, she was like, "Oh, like, I'm gonna be honest, like, I agree with you on every platform point.
yeah,
It's just that I thought that I had to give money to him. Like, I just thought that that's how this worked."
yeah,
Because I felt frustrated with the system and I was like, "Okay, like, my member," right?
yeah,
But I think that again, he's not really actually even fighting for that vote. Like, even that person was like, "I'm gonna vote for you," right? Again, man, I think that the establishment is gonna protect itself. There's a long legacy there. And you know what? Look, I think on some issues, like, he's tried to be a little bit better, right?
yeah,
Like, we came out and we said abolish ICE day one, and a
yeah,
week later, he was like, "Yeah, abolish ICE." So, like, I'm seeing him sort of, like, move with the times in terms of, like, because he's being primaried, it's sort of like, "Oh, like, it's safe for me to do that." But I think this is again, it goes back to the courage issue, right? Like,
yeah,
you want someone who has the courage to say that without being primary, right? You
yeah, of
want
course.
someone who, like, is like, "Hey, like, this is what I actually believe. I can say this because I believe it, not I can say it because someone is pushing me to actually say it."
Yeah, I mean, I guess though, like, one question I have for you that I try to ask everybody who comes on the show is that, I mean, and, take this for what it is. What's the case you're making to a voter for where you're like, "You should specifically believe, like, in me?" And the reason I ask is because I think that even the most, like, optimistic, plucky progressives in the country at this point feel so much malaise when they look at, like, I made the meme earlier about, like, look at the state of my opposition party, but I think a lot of progressives feel that way of, like, look at my progressives, essentially, like, and I think they look at people like the Squad, for example, and they're like, "Yeah, I mean, that's cool, I guess." They're like, "But what did you do?" Right? The most lefty people now even are like, AOC, how could you be talking about the Iron Dome? Like, how on earth could you be doing this? And so it's like, and then for the ones who aren't necessarily like being kind of a drug more into the institution, I mean, they got primaried out. They got targeted by outside interests, right? Cory Bush and Jamal Bowman both got like thrown out of Congress practically by. I mean, let's just be honest about it, like by APAC backed interests. And so, what's the theory of the case for Mussab Ali in a House caucus that has repeatedly shown that, like, in the broader Democratic caucus, like, they will fight you tooth and nail for any line that you want to get in a legislation. Like why should Jersey City voters be like, he's actually going to do it?
Yeah. I mean, I actually would make a little bit of a reverse case here, which is like, the reality is I'm not doing this because I wanna be a lifetime member of Congress. Like,
Mm,
candidly, if I get elected for 1 term and I serve 1 term and they spend everything in their power to get rid of me, so be it,
yeah,
right? Like, because I'm not thinking about this from, like, what is the political long-term angle,
yeah,
right? And I think a lot of that stems from my background, right? As I'm sure you might have read, like, when I was 23, was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer,
mm,
right? And so, like, when I was 23, I was like, "Man, I might not have another 6 months. Like, what do I wanna do with my life?" And from that moment, I'm like, "Bro, why would I ever say something I don't believe? Why
yeah,
would I ever back something up that I don't feel in my heart? Because how much time do I have left?
yeah,
Why would I go to Congress and be like, 'Hey, you know what? I'm gonna do whatever Hakeem Jeffries says so that 40 years from now, I can be the speaker.'"
yeah,
Dude, I don't care about that. Like, that's not what I'm fighting for,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like, and what's sad is, like, I think Menendez does, right? I think
yeah,
that he's taken the positions to put himself in contention where he's like not super vocal on any particular issue so that one day he can rise up and be like, "Oh, look, I played the good boy in the
Yeah.
Democratic Party," right? I don't care about that. I want to fight for what I think is right. I want to fight for what is popular amongst the American people. I want to fight against these corporate interests and I want to fight to make the world a better place. And so the argument really is that do you want somebody who is going to be there for 40 years and strategize on a way to get to the top, which by the way, by the time you get there, I don't know how much of your soul is really left, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Or would you rather have somebody who's like, "Hey, I'm going to fight on behalf of your interests each and every single day, and you can be proud of the fact that the member who goes to Congress, even if you don't agree with them, is saying what they believe in," right?
Yeah.
They're saying what they believe in, not what they're paid to say.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of reminds me, again, God, I'm just realizing now, like how many political memes I have just floating in the ether of my head. But it reminds me of one of my other favorite memes of all time, which I think came from like the 2016 election, which was this cartoon, this very crudely drawn cartoon of an ailing old man sitting in a wheelchair, and his name was Holden Blood Feast, and the like descriptors of him was like 119 years old, wants to nuke Iran. Please God, let me just see blood spill in the Middle East one more time. Proud bipartisan. You know what I mean? And it's like dead ass though, it is crazy to talk to like careerist Democrats because like it's very obvious that they are so comfortable with the theory of change moving on the pace of decades when people are like, dude, I'm gonna get evicted next week.
Yeah.
Like, what message are you selling me right now? And say what you will about Trump and like all the ways that he grifted on top of people's desperation, but it's like at least he acknowledged it. At least like in the very beginning he was willing to acknowledge it. Now he won't. Now he's like, oh, affordability is a Democratic hoax or whatever the fuck. But like it's definitely very insane
Mhm.
to me that like I guess it's insane to me that people with your views, Saab, are viewed as like somehow radical. You know, it's
Yeah, I
it's
mean, I
yeah,
I don't know if you saw the segment, but I was on PBS, right? So
yeah,
I was doing an interview on PBS, which I didn't expect the news anchor to be this aggressive,
yeah,
candidly. Like, I went on there and I thought it was gonna be like a pretty chill, like, "Hey, give me your little talking points, whatever." But
yeah,
she asked me, she's like, "Okay, you believe in this far leftist thing called Medicare for All." And I was like, "Far leftist?" I was like, "Man, this is overwhelmingly popular amongst the American people." And she was like,
yeah.
"Why doesn't it happen?" And I was like, "Because big pharma and big insurance literally own my opponent and most people in Congress." And then she was like, "Oh, let's switch gears. Let's switch gears. You believe in something else really unpopular, taxing the rich." I'm like, "Man, when has taxing the rich been unpopular? Like, this is the most popular time in history to talk about the inequality in this country."
Dude,
But it's again,
I'm. Oh,
it bothers me because it's like the media has just framed it up to be this sort of rhetoric between like, "Hey, here's this crazy idea. Let's give you guys healthcare. Let's like, actually give more people access to
yeah,
opportunity." And on the other side, it's like, "Oh, you want to talk about incrementalism and malaise sort of issues." And that's seen as like, "Oh, that's just progress. This is what it means to be progressive, right?" Oh, like on healthcare, you like my opponent's website literally says healthcare is a human right, right? And so does mine. But mine says Medicare for all. His says we should bring back the Obamacare subsidies and we should like, slowly figure out like how we
dude,
can
hell yeah,
like
dude,
it's
fuck
like,
yeah.
bro, I literally am probably, these people are literally gonna have medical debt, go bankrupt. And you're still gonna be talking about, but like, what can we incrementally do?
Yeah,
I mean, the time for incrementalism is over, right? Like we need
yeah,
some real change in this country.
yeah. I mean, I guess that kind of brings me to my like my big seminal question I want for this interview, which is like, if you were to go and be very what's the word very bold because to be a congressperson is to kind of live in like the impermanence of your seat. Um, what would be a fight? What would be the fight that if you could originate the fight, you could be like Mussab Ali started this fight in Congress over this thing, and actually tried to get a vote or got a vote, or whatever it is. What's that thing, and why are you fighting for it, and what does it represent for people who are living in Jersey City?
Look, I think there's a bunch of fights that I wanna have, I'm gonna be
Yeah,
honest with you, and I'll tell you my long-term dream, my long-term meaning, like, four-year plan,
yeah,
in a second, but I do think the number one issue has to be health insurance. Like,
yeah,
I just think, like, you think about the number of people who are uninsured, you think about the people who are like, not insured at all, you think about the amount of people who are drowning in medical debt, you think about the cost of healthcare, you think about our life expectancy relative to the rest of the world, like, dude, I can't watch that and say to myself, like, "This is okay."
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
And so I think we need to have a very real fight on Medicare for all. I think it needs to be brought to the center of Congress. And I think that it's okay if it fails, right? But I want people to be on the record saying, I want to deny the American people the same thing that they have in almost all of Europe, that they have in Asia, they they have in almost every developed country, right?
Yeah.
Ooh, sorry about that.
Oh, it's
I
all
think I'm
good.
back now.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, 1 sec. Ooh, I'm
Oh, it's all good.
just gonna turn. Okay. Okay, I think we're
Yeah, I think
better.
you're there.
We're
Yeah, yeah,
back.
yeah.
I think we're
Uh-huh.
back. Okay, we're back.
Yeah,
Um, so I think, like, the Medicare for All fight, I think, needs to happen. I think that's, critical to me in terms of,
yeah,
like, putting people on the record on that. Like, let people be on the record being like, "I know that a couple miles north of here in Canada, they have universal healthcare, and I know that in the UK, they have universal healthcare. I know in France, they have universal healthcare, and all these countries." Oh, man. Uh, um But I think that that's what we need to fight for on the Medicare issue.
yeah.
And then I think the broader thing, right? Like my 4-year plan, bro, my dream is to have a subway system in Hudson County.
Yeah, hell
You
yeah.
know, like
Yeah,
reinvest in mass transit, reinvest in, like,
yeah,
allowing people to get around without cars, like, reinvest in, like, a real, uh, 21st century solution, man. Like,
yeah,
we are here in 2025 watching these slow trains in America while the rest of the world is gallivanting around in high-speed trains.
yeah,
Why are we okay with this?
yeah,
Please, for
yeah.
the love of God, let our federal government make some real investments.
Yeah, I think that that is very wonderful, and I agree with you completely. I think healthcare like has to be like the seminal issue that like Democrats like if Democrats want to not go the way of the big party, they have to like back Medicare for all. I don't see a future for the party where they embrace like one of the things in the Texas Senate race I thought was very interesting was a lot of people got very twisted where they thought that like Tellerico is more left than Jasmine Crockett was on a lot of issues, and it's just not the case. Like
Mm,
she is actually for Medicare for all, and he is for this. I'm sorry, like dumb ass version of it where it's called like Medicare for y'all or something. And
yeah. Medicare for all who want it. I mean, this is a Pete Buttigieg invention,
yeah,
right? Like,
I know. It's just crazy. It's so stupid. Um, but like I don't see a version where like even the public option is sufficient for people. I really don't. I mean, I'm sure that Democratic voters could be gaslit into like absolutely blowing up with excitement over it, but like it's just not acceptable where in the richest country in the world we're like still being like, oh yeah, but like some people, it's okay if some people go into medical debt. Like it's insane. um but to the point about transit, I think that one of the most radicalizing things that you can do for most Americans is, especially if they live in like the middle of the country, is to show them their town's like original streetcar map that almost certainly exists. It existed in so much of the country, and be like, yeah, this is not like us inventing it whole cloth. Like your town used to have it. Like
yeah.
great example is that I lived in North Carolina for 12 years, and in one of the cities that I was living in, I was very similar where I was like, I loved living there. And it was an old world-esque city where the streets were actually built for people to walk. So that was actually really nice. But I constantly thought, I was like, how on earth do we not have like like a trolley or something? I went and looked it up. Actually, it turns out that not only did they used to have a trolley, that trolley used to go out to what we would now call the exurbs. That trolley, there used to be, I think it was like 35 miles of low speed trolleys that existed in the city, and they ripped it up in the 30s. Like it's crazy, but that story is everywhere. That story is in almost every minor big city in the
Yeah.
country. So this idea of like, oh, it's going to be so expensive and the permitting, it's just like, give me a fucking break, dude. Like, it's so
Yeah, no, I
crazy.
mean, and again, I think this is where the federal government needs to step in, right? And
Yeah,
actually say like, "Hey, let's make some real investments." And so, like, my dream, long-term dream is like get a new president who says, "Hey, I'm actually going to invest in infrastructure and not just these bridges.
yeah,
Like, I'm going to invest in like high-speed rail. I'm
yeah,
going to invest in like actually making sure that people can like get around without needing a car." And I think it would change the way our society works. I mean, like, could you couple all these other things too, man? You couple the obesity epidemic. You couple the way that people don't have interpersonal relationships, right? Like,
yeah,
if we are able to get people to walk around on the streets, talk to one another, like, feel good, feel happy, like, you're changing this entire country, one
yeah.
step at a time.
Now, my last question for you, and I want you to try and be visceral with me, and like as much as possible, try to not even mention a policy. Just think about like life, which is I just want you to imagine a kid being born in Jersey City like today, and like 10 years from now, she's in fourth grade. I just want you to like walk me through what her life could look like. In a world where not only like you win this race, but people who are thinking like you win their races in Congress, and just like talk about like what it is that maybe like she actually experiences, as opposed to what she would experience 10 years from now. Like, if things keep going the status quo.
Yeah, I mean, let's start with the fact that she would always know that she would have food on the table, instead of thinking about, "Hey, will I get to eat food today?" We'll always have free food at school. We'll always have a free breakfast. We'll have, her family will have the support to make sure that she's always gonna have a good dinner. Um, Talk about the fact that she doesn't have to think about homelessness because the government is helping to make sure that her family has real stability. And, we're building more housing sort of across the country and especially in Jersey City. You think about a person who doesn't have to think about their neighbors being ripped away from their families. You think about somebody who grows up and actually, is being prepared in school to actually have opportunity in this country, not being taught the same exact curriculum that they've been taught for the past 50 years. That's only going to let, or last 100 years, really, that's going to lead you into a factory job, when AI has basically become something that's, sort of amassed an immense amount of our energy. You think about someone who's growing up that you know, is thinking about the US as like having a powerful moral compass, right? A place where you could be proud to go to other countries in the world and be like, I'm an American.
Mm,
I mean, right now, you go to other countries and you mention you're American, man, people are gonna clown you.
I
Like
know.
you get clowned for being an American. People are like, oh, you got Trump, right? You're the Trump voters. You think about a person who also thinks about her ability to be in government, her ability to be a part of being a change maker. I mean, the saddest thing for me is like when I was growing up, I never saw someone like me in government, right? I
Mm,
never even thought about the opportunity of someone like me being in elected office, serving my community, like giving back, like having that be a reality. Look, I just think there's so much that we have at stake for our
yeah.
people. And I think the bigger thing there too is like her never having to think like, hey, my family might go bankrupt because my dad has diabetes or my mom has asthma, right? Like being
Mm,
like, oh, like actually this is something that the government supports. I think there is a bright future that's possible.
yeah.
But I think that right now as Americans, we have to allow ourselves to dream bigger, right? We have sort of constrained ourselves with this incrementalist framework that has really limited our ability to think about what's possible. And I think really what we need to do is say, okay, like what will it take for us to dream bigger? What will it take for us to actually have a country that we can be proud of?
Mm,
Instead of a country where we're constantly like, man, like government trust is at an all-time low, patriotism is at an all-time low. Like we have basically ceded the American flag to the right. And
yeah.
it's like I see an American flag at somebody's home, I just immediately think they're conservative. But like it's because what we think of as America right now, the concept of America is not a concept that I think a lot of us are very proud of.
Yeah.
And I think that, it's up to us to fix it.
Absolutely. But before I let you go, is there are there any upcoming dates that you want people to be aware of? Is there any like call to action you have for people that you want to plug here?
Yeah, so we phone bank almost every day. So anywhere you are in the world, you can join us on our phone bank and help us talk to voters. We're knocking on doors almost every single day. So if you're ever in the area, you can go to alifornj.com. That's alifornj.com. Sign up to knock on doors. Or if you want to chip in a couple bucks, same website. You can make a donation to the campaign and help us sort of get the word out there.
Wonderful. Mussab Ali, running for Congress in New Jersey. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. And I really hope you win. And as I tell all of my guests, my only request for you is that if you win, come back and talk to us.
Sure. Make it
Abs-
happen.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. I'll let you go.
All right. See you around, man. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Oh man, that was a wonderful conversation with Mr. Mussab Ali, and I think that I think we really touched on quite a lot there, and I was really happy for that. Everybody, thank you all so much for joining this special episode of Corncast. I'm going to go ahead and take about 5 minutes before I hop over to switching streaming on Substack on my phone, and then I'm going to use my computer for TikTok Studio, so I can go live on there because I have another great set of stories to talk about with you guys today. I have a great show. So see you all in a second. Thank you all so much.